Dear listeners, we have good news. In the description under this video, you can find our new channel. Please support our channel with your subscription so you won't miss new fascinating stories. Enjoy listening to it. My name is William. I want to tell you the fascinating story of how I was lucky enough to live for 10 years with an extraordinary woman. Many people may find this story very tragic and sad, but I try to look at it from a more positive angle. After all the great sages say that forgiveness is the key to spiritual well-being. It is worthwhile to begin the story with my childhood. At an early age, I was not much different from other children. Sometimes I could be mischievous, and sometimes I behaved like the most charming angel in the neighborhood. And on the whole, I had no problems with my behavior. My studies, both at school and at university, were not too difficult. But on the love front, I was much luckier than in mastering science. Girls certainly showed considerable interest in me. Sometimes guys would ask me, "What's your secret?" "William, tell me right away." I thought, made a thoughtful face and answered, "I don't know." I don't know at all. Of course, my dear friends, were not satisfied with that answer for many reasons. They usually began to sigh and whisper something to themselves. I didn't have any concrete ideas with satisfactory answers. Was it about looks? Maybe it was, though there were plenty of men like me around. Then are girls fascinated by high intelligence? Not so either. I was only good at the humanities, not at mathematics or chemistry. As I dug in my mind to the smallest particles of my nature, I gradually began to form the right answer. It must be about character, I thought to myself. There's something about me that makes all the girls melt. Could it be my indifferent attitude? I never chased after unattainable goals because they did not arouse any interest in me. So most of the time my attitude towards girls of a higher rank was indifferent. It's only they themselves did not like it because such behavior hurt their self-esteem. The same story happened with my future wife, Molly. We worked in the same notary's office, so we often crossed paths. It's funny, but I tried to ignore this person in every way. If from the outside, she seemed overly aggressive and unwavering character. But it was enough to give her a reason, and she was ready to scandalize absolutely all the people who fell under her arm. I often wondered why she hadn't been fired in all those years. It was very strange. It was as if there was a magic field around her, which protected her from her superiors. But it was clear to everyone, this lady walks on very thin ice. One day, we had this conversation. "William, did you take care of the papers I left you yesterday?" "What papers?" At these, replied my dear colleague, imitating a friendly smile on her face. With these I have not dealt with. However, I did sort out a few inheritance contracts yesterday. By the way, what are these papers? That's the most interesting name I've ever heard. Stop being sarcastic. You were supposed to have a mortgage, which I left right here on your desk, hissed Molly angrily. Here they are. She slammed her hand down on my desk, where the papers she supposedly left yesterday were. I had no desire to react to her mood swings, so I just nodded silently, so as not to provoke an angry woman into another inappropriate conflict. After that, she just turned around and walked away to her computer. At that moment, I felt practically nothing for her, at least positive emotions. Surely if a man from the future had told me that I would be married to this lady for 10 years, my brain would have surely taken such information as spam. As time went on, we still couldn't digest each other several times. We had some pretty serious conflicts between us. We could have fought like this until our old age, but we were influenced by one incident that completely changed the way we treated each other. And it was this. Every year at Christmas, our firm threw fun corporate parties. It was hard to call them fun or rousing. They were more likely even awkward. But surprisingly, a lot of the employees who were going to have such a good time got sick of it. Not only were we required to pretend to be friendly on a regular workday, but we were also forced to imitate fun on a moody holiday. As if nothing had happened, disappointed in advance. I arrived at the party. Everything was going according to the classics. But at some point the party started to rock. I was a little shocked by what I saw. I thought it was some kind of bad dream. Could my employees and supervisors really be fun? Unbelievable. I was adrift, so I had no choice like everyone else. I was slowly starting to get too bad. I forgot to factor in my poor sensitivity to alcohol. I got drunk pretty damn easily. This was very unfortunate, as I was later able to see. The whole evening went on like a fog. I didn't care about anything at all until I woke up the next day. I opened my eyes and saw a snow-white room, probably a hotel. Then I had to turn my head the other way, where I could see another person. As you may have guessed by now, in classic genre fashion, it turned out to be Molly. God, what a mess. I thought to myself. I had no idea what I could do now. I just lay there looking at the naked woman. After a while, I had to come to my senses. I poked my hand on Molly's shoulder and said, "Max, wake up. Come on, get up." "Silence. Get the fuck up," I shouted. The poor frightened woman plopped down on the floor while I looked down casually. She looked surprised. "What are you shouting for?" Molly asked grudgingly. I didn't like the situation at all. I was at a disadvantage. It's scary to think what I might have done last night. That's why I decided to go with the old tried and true tactic. As they say, the best defense is a good offense. I exhaled and said, "Give me my clothes right now." "Thou, you scandalized girl, you were out of line. I knew you had a lot of red flags in your character, but I couldn't think of it all," I shouted, waving my hand in different directions. "The sex space, I will sue you for rape. Do you understand me?" Molly looked at me frightened. Strangely enough, she didn't say a word. Having the advantage in this situation naked, I went off in search of clothes. Fortunately, it didn't take me long. I quickly got dressed and ran out of the apartment. Molly grudgingly pulled on her pants as I closed the front door behind me. A little vacation time had begun. I had plenty of free time to think about the situation at hand. I'll be honest, within 5 minutes of leaving that apartment, my conscience was starting to tug at me. I had been completely wrong. And no matter how bad this woman was in my eyes, I had no right to humiliate her. I decided to apologize. On my first day of work after vacation, I had to find the strength to apologize to Molly. During my lunch break, I approached her on my way to the cafeteria, so the rest of the staff wouldn't witness our frank conversation. Molly, I was wrong. I apologize, I said. She didn't respond in any way. It's Max, I realize what I did was wrong to you. I wish I could make it up to you in some way, but you can't undo the past. I don't want to feel uncomfortable talking to you. So I'm sorry again. I stepped back about half a meter after I said that, and then I heard Molly's voice behind me. Okay, stopped. You could tell that my karma had been cleared. And for a few minutes, I looked at Molly in silence, waiting for some more words. She didn't answer, so I quietly went about my business. However, she evidently didn't like it, and she had her own plans for it. You must marry me, she said loudly. Some of the workers, interested in what was going on, turned in our direction. I thought I was imagining what I was hearing. What? Why else? I said frankly. My voice was a little shaky, for I was concerned about the dialogue. Had I done something awful that day? Then maybe she was pregnant. This is not the way women are treated in our family, Molly replied, emphasizing her roots. I can't let you get away with that. You have to marry me. It felt like my brain was going to burst. I shouldn't have apologized to her after all, for her disgusting character had completely lost her mind. I wanted to solve this case as quickly as possible by finding a compromise, but Molly wasn't about to let go of her strange idea so easily. It had been 2 weeks, and she still kept up with me, reminding me about marriage. Funny, but apparently she enjoyed terrorizing other people. But little by little, working with this woman became a drag for me. Something had to be done. I made a very big mistake when I tried to find a solution that would satisfy both of us. Stick 7 that case, let me at least ask you out, so we get to know each other better. I offered her one day at work. She was very happy about it. She agreed to my idea, and I got a little head start. In the meantime, I could find out what the motive was for such intrusive actions on her part. I went on a few dates with her, but it was a fatal mistake for me. Oddly enough, she was more than adequate in her off hours. She loved to talk about herself, her favorite books, restaurants, and so on. This woman was simply impossible to shut up. I rested as long as I remained silent on my part. Molly would ask me questions, but she was satisfied with short answers. Thus, all in all, what mattered most to her was attention. With each such encounter, her character began to seem more appealing to me. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. I was still able to find a few reasons why I should marry Molly. On the whole, this woman's intentions were quite harmless. There are a lot of arrogant and somewhat insane people like that among us today. We got married. Things were going smoothly and pleasantly in our personal lives. I decided to quit my present job to open a translation agency. Of course, it was not easy to start up, but my motivation kicked in. The new business was easy enough. It also seemed like a great bonus that I only crossed paths with my newfound wife at home. I loved her, though I wanted to take a break from her presence at times. But before I knew it, 10 whole years had passed. Together with her, we bought a new apartment and had a child. I couldn't call myself a great father, but I was doing pretty well with a 7-year-old boy named Kirish. Our life was good enough for me. And maybe there really is something wrong with me for agreeing to marry Molly. These days, though, as I've been able to see, there are a lot of crazy people wandering around. My wife was among them. At some point in our life together, her mood changed dramatically for the worse. She became much more irritable than she had been before. It seemed to me that this phase should pass quickly. That Molly started to be downright nasty to me. One day it got to the point of utter absurdity. Enraged for reasons I do not understand, my wife decided to feed me dog food, adding it to the soup. It took me a long time to figure out the reason for all these mood swings. I would have had to continue to be in the dark if I hadn't happened to see her on the street getting out of someone else's car. She usually reacted very strongly to any kind of attention from strangers or even to a man's usual gallantry. But only this time, she was clearly glowing with happiness at being kissed by a stranger. We had a serious conversation about it that day. She didn't even have to make excuses, because everything was just out in the open. I wasn't too disappointed, however. I wanted a divorce and to keep raising our son. Of course, my wife was adamantly against it. "I will report you to the police," she shouted loudly. "I'll tell them that you physically assaulted me and were very aggressive, after I said I wanted to take the baby away." "Do you understand?" "Got it," I said indifferently. "I now get out of my house." "No, what do you mean, no?" Molly yelled in anger. "Ash, that's what it means," I said calmly. And then I took the first thing Molly bought and threw it out the window. "Stop ruining my property at once." "I like it, so I'm going to throw out some more of your favorite vases." "Do you mind?" "Actually, I'm present." I repeated this action a few more times. It was very comforting to me, so I wasn't going to stop. Molly felt like getting back at me. She opened my home minibar and started throwing bottles of liquor outside one by one. I watched with a slight smile on my face, and then my expression changed dramatically as a loud scream was heard from the street. The fool had smashed a passerby's head in with a bottle. When the cops came to investigate, she started playing the victim. My husband got angry and started smashing things around. I was not nervous. In the end, we managed to prove her involvement in the incident. Fortunately, the victim got off lightly from the falling beetle and my wife screaming. And then everything went like clockwork. I was able to easily prove her insanity in court and take over Kier's after the divorce. Ollie's problems began at that stage when she had to see a psychiatrist. But it was immediately clear on the spot that it was best not to leave the children with this lady. To finish the final result, I asked her current coworkers to say a few nice things about her. The court had no choice but to give my son to me for foster care. I fully deserved to raise my child and had no doubt that he would stay with me. This story has no morals. I'm most likely to blame myself for everything that is going on. But more importantly, goodness and justice prevailed. Literally a year later, I was able to meet a beautiful, quiet girl who later adopted my son without problems. We married and had another child. Its life was going well for us, and I never even thought about Molly. It wasn't until another 13 years later, when my children were grown, she made herself known. There was a newspaper article with the headline, "Woman fed her own husband arsenic and then tried to strangle him at night." I laughed heartily when I saw the picture of my ex-wife's face in that reading. It was very funny, and I was damn glad I was able to divorce this lunatic, because that unfortunate man could have been me. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.